Is there still some education, some push there to be?
If we were to walk around here and you go some other places, even the data places, and you start saying to them blockchain, you'd see their eyes roll back. They might actually say, oh, Bitcoin, but they don't understand the technology. They do not, it's actually better in ways than digital identity was 25 years ago. People understood it but could never see a use for it because I could see you. But now in this world where we're sending things thousands of miles away and we're dealing with people thousands of miles away, there's a view for it. But if the technologists don't understand it, how do we expect the person walking the street to understand what this is all about?
No, I completely agree. I mean, I think there's a reason why we're in the trough of discontent, as Gartner said. So last year, there's a lot of companies talking about blockchain, pretending to solve the world, not talking about the real problems around it. And you hit the nail on the head. Blockchain is a technology, but you have to combine it with other technologies to have the real strength and power from it. But people pretending blockchain solve the world. So a lot of, I think, businesses have gone, blockchain's a fad. Put it in the bin, and now we're going through a real education cycle to show them of the proper use cases. So we were at Mobile World Congress last week, and the majority of people came there and said, I know what blockchain is, tell me about the use case. Here, you're right, it's what is blockchain. Completely different level of education between different leaderships of the businesses.
Wayne, do you have something to
I think,
too?
You talk about technologists rolling their eyes about. I don't think you can drive change through technology. Change comes from being customer-led, not technology-led. And I think fundamentally, if you don't understand what blockchain can do for your customers, you don't understand your customers. I think you're thinking about it in the wrong way. So I think, for me, when we talk to businesses about how blockchain can change their, the way that they work, it's always what can it do for your customers, and then that drives them on a path of thinking about the importance of the technology. And I think until people start thinking in that way, you're probably just going to have these problems.
I've worked in business and I know what my technologists can do if they don't trust something and they don't believe in something. They can bury it so fast and you're wasting 6 months. So you do need, I agree with you, the technologist is not going to drive, but if he understands the value, then from a business standpoint, you can help drive that. Obviously, this is not about solving technology, it's about solving business processes. But we need to make sure that the guy who's actually holding the key to the technology actually signs off. Because I've been in that place.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So he has to understand the value that it would give to his business, but he has to understand that. At the moment, people talk about it more as a tech. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people will talk about it as a technology rather than an enabler to change business processes. And I think that is something that needs to change.
So do you think, as part of change going forward, that the kind of lift off or the traction will be brought about by those value points, starting from this is what it can do, this is how much it can save, this is the efficiency it can produce?
Well, I think people just have to look at the way that people perceive brands today. And if you think about, there's no loyalty in the world in the future. If you think that everything is going to be voice activated, you can't shove your brand in people's faces to make them want to buy it. They just want to buy what is the easiest and best thing for them. So, the idea that, I've forgotten what I was going to say now. Getting well into it. What was the question again?
So I'm going to help you.
Well, what do you think is how should you approach? You're running a blockchain business. How do you approach a potential customer and say, take it, it's going to benefit you?
Okay. So for us, it's a process of education. So we're working on how we can do 2-day sprints to help people essentially workshop the benefits of blockchain. So day one, understand what blockchain actually is. Day two, we have a whiteboard session where we'll just ask them to think futuristic, using blockchain, what they've learned the day before, to try and help them come up with new ways of thinking. And if some of that sticks, then great. If not, just keep knocking on the door and making sure that they're onto it, basically. But it's just a process of education for us.
Right, I see. Sure.
I'd say for us it's business case driven. It has to be. Every app we pull together for a client, the main driver is the business case. What are they going to save? What extra revenue are they going to get? The technology, we know we've succeeded when the technology becomes irrelevant. Whether it's on the blockchain or the cloud, it doesn't matter. We're helping a client have new revenue, reduce cost to serve, increase customer satisfaction. It's all about the business case. It's absolutely number one business case.
I
Genevieve?
think for me, what I'm doing a lot of my time is spending time with policymakers, sitting down with the OECD, sitting down with the people at ESA, the European Space Agency, to explain what the possibility and how you can use that data and how you can then start looking at changing policy. Because one of the things that we want to make happen very quickly is, as those brands are changing themselves and changing how they go about doing business, that the laws are not thinking that they're predatory and not changing fast enough. So if we don't make sure that government understands it also, then they're going to think that you're doing something bad to their organization. And how are you actually going to change? So for us, we're working with government, we're working with the World Bank, and we're really looking at that education at that level, so that the thought process is not just about how much money can you make with it, but how can you allow others to really partake in what we're calling the shared economy.
Sure. That was another point I wanted to bring up about regulation. So regulation, there's still some questions about areas in blockchain, how they can be regulated. Do you think this is a key area that has to be sorted out sooner than later, or the next 6 months to a year? What's your take on it, since you've been working with policymakers?
Yeah, so there are different parts of regulation. There's the financial regulation of how you're treating tokens and how you're doing securities, and really being able to protect people who are investing into the technology, which is very different than, I happen to live in Jersey, in the Channel Island. Actually, Uber's not there, but Airbnb is not legal, because you have to have a certain license to be living in a house on your own. So it's that shared economy is not allowed by law. So they are working on changing those things. But if you don't understand what the technology is going to be doing, so let's say smart contract. With smart contract, you're going to take an agreed paper, and now you're going to put it digitally, which means you're going to take action. There are opportunities also to be looking at arbitration, which are much less costly. So you need the legal system, the policymakers, to understand that, so that they then recognize the fact that that paper is now being acted by a smart contract. So those, and also if you have an IoT device which is checking temperature and location, and it doesn't do what is expected, being able to do that penalty. So unless they agree to it, the person who you penalize could actually come in and say, by law, your computer cannot do that to me.
Right. Philip, do you have...
Yeah, the security and the regulation is an interesting one, because tokens, absolutely agree, we need clarity, and obviously later on this year we're going to get some direction, not a decision, but direction on the whole utility security token thing, which I'll let you talk about more on. But there's also, I mean, everyone's sure fully aware that smart contracts are not legally enforceable right now, they're just code. So there needs to be some direction and rules on that, and also if something goes wrong, whose fault is it? Now, to me, software, no matter if it's blockchain software or any software, if the fault is because your code is incorrect, it's got bugs and errors in it, then you're liable. If you're operating it and it's not the code's fault, then I think it's quite simple from that side. So I think we need to be careful. Regulations needed in specific things like tokenization and such, like security tokens, I get that. But when it comes to security, I think a lot of it, the rules are already out there, we just need to apply it.
But also with IoT devices, so I don't think there's any standardized way of making an IoT device, so it's a free-for-all at the moment. I think there's no, when they get the IoT devices, is there a standardized way of actually testing them and setting them up? It's just all, everybody's doing a different thing. So when you think about what we discussed, which was, and I'm sure we'll come on to it, which is the hard border in Ireland, then, there's regulation all the way through that process, hasn't even been given any thought yet. And it's like, it's going back to what I say, it's not just integrating technology, it's more what the end-to-end journey looks like for your customers end-to-end, but also for you as a business. And of course, regulation is needed because it gives you structure on how you do that end-to-end. So yeah, and it's just like everything else, you just need some rules to work alongside.
Sure, no worries. But I'm going to change it up a little bit and ask if there's any questions from the crowd for our panelists up here. Any particular topics? No? It is blockchain. All right, no worries.
Anything but what is blockchain?